Hello friends and welcome back to my shop. In this week I did a bunch of essentially boring pen work. It was a bunch of fusion modeling that I had to move in the way I had it structured because I'm doing more of it mill turning now and less of it lathe, so lots of computer work. But the interesting thing I did was make a set of titanium earrings for my wife. It was her birthday this past weekend. It seems to come around every year, and I decided I wanted to make her a little piece of jewelry, and titanium is the metal I like playing with, so that's what I made it with. Here I just put my smaller little machinist vise in my big vise. Let me take the stock in and out a little easier, and it's got a little V-rail to help with vertical alignment. I used a 1/8 inch end mill to rough out the rough shape, and then came in with a 1/16 just to true the edges up and keep the edges nice and clean looking. I didn't want to do lots of polishing on the edges because it's a fairly small part, so I try to do most of that on the machine. The next step was coming in with a 1/32 inch end mill to do the little veins on the leaf, and they were cut on a curved path that slowly got deeper to kind of give it a varying line width, which was annoying because like 5/10 of difference on an engraving makes a massive difference. So I stepped down in a couple passes so I could judge it and abort one if the engraving wasn't matching the other one perfectly. The next step was using a little 40 thou carbide PCB drill to drill a little hole that will let it go into the mount, and that basically covers the machining aspect. I could have put this into soft jaws and parted it off, but honestly, putting it in the lathe and then just accurately aligning the back, just as simple. There's no features on the back of this part, and a simple part off and then a hand finishing on the back face was more than enough. I was kind of worried it might have deformed that little hole because there's only about 20 thou of titanium around that hole, where it will go to like the little jump ring or whatever for an earring. But yeah, worked perfectly. Just sharp, high-speed steel parting tool, nothing fancy. The next step is a tedious bit. The little pip on the back from the parting op had to be removed, so I just used the little rotary tool to basically grind away the titanium as low as I dared to go. And then the rest of it I'll just lightly file off and then progressively smooth the face out with different grades of sandpaper. You can see the file was there to kind of take the rough material down. And then that's a piece of Kratex rubber that I was cut in half, just to give me kind of like a half hard polishing face where I could just softly round the edges and polish the faces up. And that's a little bit of polishing compound I just spread onto my cutting mat, which seemed to work decently well as a lap. Normally you can use a wood lap to kind of hold the polishing paste, but the little cutting mat seemed to work just fine. And I just jumped back and forth between the Kratex and the polishing just to try to get the finish I was after. Kind of a brushed, half-polished finish, something that'll show up the anodize nice. Once that was finished, I went ahead and cleaned the parts. So there's my anodizing bath, which is just a baking soda and distilled water. I wanted to go green, and I don't have a power supply yet that'll go that high voltage, so it's back to the 9 volts. The titanium pieces rested in the Windex there, and then rinsed in distilled water. And I have a little piece of titanium wire that I hung them off to drop them in the anodized solution together. And then I could anodize in one step. That way I'm guaranteed a pretty uniform color between the two parts. I basically just set them up on the wire, dunked them in the bath, and then hit power to it. And that got me to my purpley greenish hue I wanted. Depending on the way the light hits it, it either picks up purple or it picks up kind of a subtle green. The next thing was just a little bit of flare. Laser cutter lets you do some pretty cool stuff. So I designed a fake company. My cat is named Pico. My dog's name is Hazel, so made him a fake jewelry company, and just blasted a little carrier piece that I could put the earrings on for a little bit better presentation. It's kind of fun how you can do neat things like that when you start having all these little weird production tools. Something I really enjoy doing. I cut up some of that nice Kaizen foam just to act as backers. Once again, when it's in the box, just to make the presentation a little nicer. Honestly, more of this is just me playing and having fun. And that's the finished product. Turned out really well. I'm happy with them. She seemed happy with them. So that's all that matters. Anyways, that's all for this week, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in as always, and I'll see you next week. Take care.